One common question people have all the time is, should I lease or buy my new vehicle? I don't think it's a difficult question. I'm going to answer this question really quickly in this video, and I'm going to stand behind my recommendation as a veteran of banking and personal finance for over 35 years. So hopefully you enjoy this video. I almost never recommend leasing. Why? Leasing means you're never going to be without a monthly payment. You're renting forever. You're going to be making that monthly payment in perpetuity. When the first lease is done, you're going to have to enter a second lease. When the second lease is done, you're going to have to enter a third lease. You never build equity. So cars with a loan over time, when you're done paying off a loan, you're going to have value in that car, something that you can sell for value. With leasing, you never have any equity in the car that you're driving. It's very difficult to break a lease early. I almost say it's nearly impossible. The fees to break a lease early are so prohibitive, almost no one can afford to do it. So if you enter into a 3-year lease contract, know that you are stuck with this car for 3 years. If you want to get out of that car, it's going to be very, very costly. Fourth, there is cost in returning a lease. Don't think that when you're done with the lease, you can just drop it off at the dealership, hand them the keys, and walk away. They're going to keep track of your miles. There'll be a maximum miles you can drive per year. And if you go over that, they're going to charge you a fee at lease termination. They're also going to look at the condition of the car. If a rock came up from the road and nicked your windshield, they're going to deduct a price for that. If there's a scratch on the side of your door because someone put a grocery cart into your car at the grocery parking lot, they might charge you a fee for that at the end of your lease. So leases are expensive. They're difficult. Yes, the monthly payment is lower on a lease than on a loan, but over the long term, you're going to spend more money leasing than if you would have just gotten a loan to buy your car. Financing increases the cost of your vehicle over time. Financing could increase the cost of your vehicle by as much as 50%. So if you purchase a new vehicle for $20,000 and then finance it over a long period of time, you could end up spending $30,000 just from the finance charges of that loan. So your goal is to reduce how much financing costs you as much as possible. And how are you going to do that? One, you're going to negotiate as low of an interest rate as you possibly can. Two, you're going to reduce the amount you finance as much as possible. And how are you going to do that? You're going to do that through a trade-in and negotiating the best value you can get on a trade-in. I've got another video on how to negotiate the trade-in that you should watch. Thirdly, you're going to put money down. Put as much money down as you can afford, leaving, of course, enough in your savings for a rainy day fund. But if you have some money in savings you can put down, put as much as you can down. At a minimum, everybody needs to put at least 10 or 20% down. And why is that? Vehicles lose value. They're not like homes. They're not an appreciating asset. They're a depreciating asset. And because when you're financing a vehicle, in the beginning months of your financing, more of your payments going to be going to interest than to principal, or a lot of your payments going to be going to interest instead of principal. And therefore, you could find yourself in a situation, what we call negative equity, which means the balance on your loan is greater than the value of your vehicle. And that's really bad news, because if you ever tried to sell your vehicle, you wouldn't get enough money for your vehicle to pay off the loan balance. Also, if you're in a situation where your vehicle was in a storm or some natural disaster or was stolen, or you were in an accident and you totaled your vehicle, once your vehicle is stolen or totaled, your insurance company will give you the value of your vehicle in the terms of a check or cash payment. The problem is if the loan balance is greater than the value of your vehicle, you're going to find yourself in a deficiency situation, which is the value you get from insurance is less than the value of your loan. And now, not only do you not have a car anymore, but you still have a loan balance at your bank. So to avoid that, you're always going to put at least 10 or 20% down. Secondly, you're going to finance for as short a term as possible and never over 60 months. 72-month and 84-month, even 96-month auto loans are becoming more and more common. But with those long terms, you're just going to increase the expense of interest expense over time. So you always want to finance as a short a term as possible, never longer than 60 months. And as I mentioned, if you have a trade in a vehicle to reduce the finance amount. Okay, so I know a lot of you are still struggling with my advice to always get a loan versus a lease because I realize leasing lowers your monthly payment. But again, over the long term, leasing will be more expensive for you. And I'm looking out for your budget over the long term. So, how do I finance a vehicle and not run into a negative equity situation when I sell my vehicle or get in an accident with my vehicle and have to have my insurance company pay me out for the value of the vehicle? I'm going to put money down. And how do I lower my monthly payment? Well, if you're on a very tight budget, I'd recommend you buying a used vehicle. Don't buy a new vehicle. Wait until you've built up some savings. Wait until you've built some equity in a car that you can trade in to lower the cost of a new vehicle. So, with a used vehicle, typically I would recommend a vehicle 3 to 6 years old. Beyond 6 years old, you could run into some mechanical problems. Keep in mind, your vehicle will more than likely be outside of warranty. So make sure your car is mechanically sound. So if you're buying a 3 to 6 year old car, you can put 10% down and be comfortable. If you have a moderate budget, I would recommend what we call a certified used car. That's a used car that's 2 or 3 years old, possibly 4 years old, that the dealership certifies and has a warranty on it. Generally, certified used cars have a 2-year warranty, which means for the next 2 years, you won't have any costs in maintenance other than standard oil changes and tire rotations and things like that. But there'll be no cost from a mechanical standpoint for your car if you buy a certified used car. And I'd recommend putting 15% down. If you're ready and you have a decent budget, you have good income, yes, go out and buy a new vehicle, but I would recommend you putting at least 20% down. On the next page, we'll look at what we can expect for monthly payments to be in these three scenarios. Okay, so let's go through some sample calculations under the three budgets we talked about previously. So with a tight budget, let's just assume you're purchasing a vehicle for $15,000. Let's say you can come up with a $5,000 down payment, a combination of trade-in and cash down. Your tax entitled, depending on how much your trade-in was for, perhaps about $1,080. With this used vehicle, we're always going to finance for as short a term as possible. In my example, 36 months. So with a 36-month term, I can get a payment of $330, assuming a 5.5% interest rate. On the moderate budget, when we're going with a certified used vehicle, I can probably find a certified used vehicle for a price of $28,000. In this case, I'm going to put down a combination of trade and down payment of $10,000, tax and title of $2,280. Now I'm going to finance for a term of 48 months, and I can get a monthly payment of $475. For the large budget scenario, I should be able to find a new vehicle for about $40,000. Yes, new vehicles can be much higher than this, but depending on your budget, my assumption here is $40,000. Now, with this budget, I'm assuming I've got a nice trade-in that's coming in. My trade-in is $15,000, tax and title of $3,300. I will go up to 60 months if I need to, so a 60-month loan term, and that would give me a monthly payment of $540. In all these examples, the dealer will try to tell me I don't need to put any money down. The dealer will try to tell me that's not needed, that they can finance 100% of the loan amount. But I don't want that. The dealer makes more money on financing, but it's going to cost me more money over time. The dealer will also try to sell you on a longer term. the dealer will get more money selling a longer term than a shorter term. And we don't want that because that's going to increase my cost of the vehicle over time. So ahead of time, already know what loan term you're thinking about. Ahead of time, already know how much down payment you're going to commit to in this transaction, and don't let the dealer convince you otherwise. The other reason why I recommend short-term auto loans is because many families own two cars and many families have two auto loans. I would never recommend any family have two auto loans. So how do I get to just having two cars and one auto loan? Well, I'm going to alternate my auto loan. So in the example of the tight budget where I have a used vehicle that I'm going to finance for 3 years, one vehicle is always under a loan contract for 3 years. And then I'm going to keep that vehicle once it's paid off for another 3 years before I replace that vehicle. And then alternating, I have another vehicle that doesn't have a loan on it. During the 3 years, I'm paying vehicle one's loan payment. And then when I'm done paying vehicle one's loan payment, I can replace vehicle two with a new used car where I'll have a 3-year loan. So I've always got one vehicle completely paid off and I have one vehicle with a loan against it. If we learn to budget this way, I will always only have one payment for an auto loan, which is going to help me and my budget immensely. I hope you enjoyed my video on lease or loan. As a recap, I always recommend loans over leases, and I always recommend down payments and short monthly loan terms and trading a vehicle to get the tax advantage you get from trading a vehicle. I've got 2 other videos, if you haven't seen them yet, in a series on vehicle purchasing and financing that I recommend everybody see if they haven't seen the other 2 videos, because I've got a lot of great tips. I hope you enjoyed this. I've got a lot of other personal finance tips and strategies if you subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much.